You might not know this, but one of the biggest events in the Canadian federal election happened last night, and it was when Jagmeet Singh was on Tout le monde, parle, which is a very, very prominent show in Quebec that, is on the Radio Canada, and that is a forum for discussion and, debate that covers not just politics, but pop culture. Athletes go on it. Major figures of all backgrounds go on it. And it was really cool to see Jagmeet Singh there because this can be a make or break moment in a politician's election cycle. There has been so many times that a politician has gone on Tout le monde en parle and has really hurt their chances in Quebec or has helped them. Most famously, Jack Layton in 2011, when it was looking like it would be a regular NDP election, not a bad one, not a great one, where there'd be very little, if any, success in Quebec. Jack Layton went on to Tout le monde en parle and won Quebecers over with his message, yes, but also with his personality. And in so doing, he helped kick off that orange wave, which led to, over 100 seats for the NDP and a big, big chunk of those seats coming from Quebec. Because Tout le monde en parle is something that everyone either watches or knows someone who watches it, and so it becomes a focal point of discussion. For Anglo-Canadians, this might not be very clear, but in Quebec especially, and perhaps in other parts of the country where Franco-Canadians live, this is a major, major focal point for a politician's election cycle. It really is crucial. And Singh performed extremely well. He was fun, he was likable, but he was also focused and serious on his issues. And I think that it was very important for Singh to hammer home that he has the progressive values that match what Quebecers want to see for this country. And he did that. He did that by talking about raising taxes on the rich. There was a great moment in this where, there was discussions about, can the NDP fiscally implement its plan? Is it fiscally viable? And Singh and at least one of the other panelists noted that it's not so much that Canada can't afford what the NDP is proposing. It's that we haven't for so long made it a priority. So the money's always been there. We've just never allocated it correctly. And through shifting corporate subsidies and through taxing the rich, on things like wealth and capital gains, we can have those different priorities. And as it was noted on the panel as well, specifically referring to conservatives, but this can often apply to liberals as well, especially because Justin Trudeau is sort of trying to propose a tax cut in some ways. The reality is that every tax cut is also a spending increase. It sounds paradoxical, but it's true. The government creates deficits, not just when it creates a new social program, but when it cuts taxes. And of course, conservatives and liberals might say, well, this tax cut will spur economic growth and over time it will lower the deficit. But the same can be said for good many social programs as well. A social program that makes Canadians healthier and happier and more productive can over the long term have positive economic benefits. But we often don't couch it in those terms. And so Singh made it very clear, and the other panelists made it very clear. The Conservatives are proposing tax cuts that will cost billions. Why not healthcare and dental care and pharmacare programs that will cost the same or less in many cases? Why not? And Jagmeet Singh really hammered home that message, that the NDP's plan is not only, compassionate and driving to build a more equal society, but that it's pragmatic because it's really about different priorities rather than something totally and radically different in terms of the fiscal outlook. It's just about shifting money around from corporate subsidies to regular people's needs and shifting money from the very wealthiest to the people who need a little bit of help now to get the basic human dignities that have been denied to them. And I think Singh also handled himself really well on Quebec-specific issues. I think he handled well the discussion of his identity. They replayed that excellent Quebec campaign ad. As I noted a couple weeks ago when the NDP launched that ad, I thought the English one was good, but the Quebec one was fantastic. And it hammers home Singh as just a regular guy who does wear a turban, but it doesn't fully define who he is. And it hammers home Singh as a guy who shares Quebec's values in terms of economic equality, environmental justice, and on and on and on. And I think that in that way, it really brought home that this is a guy who, yes, looks different, who, yes, has a religious faith that isn't exactly, common in Canada, but who is at his core, a regular Canadian fighting for you and other regular Canadians. And I think that message landed. Now, it was also important that I think he took a careful tone on Bill 21 in Quebec. My instinct would be to oppose this law, more vigorously. But I think Singh, took a politically astute stance. Singh realizes that this law is wrong. The Bill 21 law is wrong. The one that tells people that they can't wear certain religious symbols if they work certain jobs. It has forced people to uproot their entire lives. It has affected specifically Muslim and Sikh people. It's not affecting Christian people, for instance. It's a really troubling law. And it really is state-sponsored discrimination. And Singh has been clear in saying that, more clear than other leaders. Some leaders have said it here and there. Singh has been loud and consistent. But Singh is also smart, I feel, to not pull the trigger on this discussion of federal dissolution of the law, to basically say we will override Quebec. Not only is that political, dynamite, that will cause major issues because Quebecers will see that as an infringement on their rights. It's also the case that this could be dealt with through legal challenges, through charter challenges, which will not require direct intervention from the federal government. So I think Singh is saying, look, this is wrong. This bill is wrong. This bill discriminates against many, many, many Quebecers. It's forced some people to give up the careers they love. It's forced some people to move out of province and therefore uproot their entire families and leave their communities. It's wrong. But he says the Quebec National Assembly, the Quebec's legislature at the provincial level, is, a duly elected body and has passed this legislation. And for now, at least, that has to be respected. Now, courts may challenge this, and somebody may well make the case that this violates their charter right to equality before the law under Section 15. I would suggest that they're probably right. But until that happens, I think it's best to respect the basic rights of the Quebec National Assembly, as abhorrent as the law might be. And I think that balance is a good one. Singh is never going to fully bend and say Quebecers are right to discriminate against people like me and against visible minorities and religious minorities. He's not going to say that. One, because he doesn't believe it, and two, because it's not believable that even if he said it, that people would believe him. Singh's record is clearly in favor of protecting the rights of marginalized people. But by approaching it as he had done last night on Tout le monde, parle, I think that he's let Quebecers know that say, hey, look, we have a disagreement on this. I'm very clear about that. But at the end of the day, I do respect Quebec as a province that can pass its own legislation, and we'll let the courts decide. And has he lost some people by being anti-Bill 21? Perhaps. But I wonder how many of those people would never have voted for him in the first place, because if you support Bill 21, it might well be the case that you do not support people who look like Jagmeet Singh, right? And I mean, that could be an ugly reality here. But there are many Quebecers who do not like Bill 21, yet who do not like the federal government trying to stop Bill 21. They suggest that, look, we're fighting this on the streets in Quebec, in politics in Quebec, trying to change the minds of people here on the ground. The federal government intervening will only create a siege mentality and will make Bill 21 not just a, discriminatory bill, but an act of, national defense. That Quebec will see this as an encroachment on their right, their historic and contemporary rights. And then that will become an issue of not only race and ethnicity and religion, but also of Quebec's national autonomy and sovereignty within the Canadian Federation. And we don't want to have that linkage necessarily. So all in all, it was a great performance by Jagmeet Singh. The fallout to it might take a little bit of time to parse out. Will Singh, lose because of this performance? I don't think so. I think people who are down on Singh are already down on him. Will he gain a lot from it, though? And that's the question we need to think a little bit about more, because we need to see more data. We need to see more reactions. From what I've seen, however, it's been pretty positive. It's been pretty positive, and even the framing from Tout le monde parle, if you go to the link, direct link to the interview, they call Jagmeet Singh the anti-status quo, l'anti-statu quo, like this, that he's very clearly everything that the current status quo isn't. whether it's who he is or whether it's the politics he approaches. And I think that for Canadians who are looking for real progressive change, he is the option. And I think there are Quebecers who have that vision, but also non-Quebecers who have that vision. So look to see if you see a Singh bump in Quebec, or if you see a Singh bump in certain parts of the province, or if enthusiasm for this performance maybe even leaks out beyond Quebec. Because while a lot of Anglo-Canadians do not watch this show, I think some people do understand the significance, and media coverage of it will be a talking point today and over the next few days. So keep an eye on that, and I'll see you guys next time.